live. Lauren Pajadas is here. I saw Aileen Cruz official here a little bit earlier. I hope you can hear me okay. It is about, I would say it's somewhere around 6 a.m. in the Philippines, which makes it about 2 p.m. in California and somewhere around 5 p.m. on the East Coast. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. So here's what happened. So I'm learning more and more about how setting up these live streams work. And so I thought that I could set it up on my phone on YouTube, and then I could come over here to my desktop and I could fire it up from my desktop. Well, if there's a way to do that, I don't know how to do it. Good morning, Aileen. How are you? If there's a way to do it where you can set up the stream on your phone for YouTube, I'm not using StreamYard this morning, I'm using YouTube. There's a way to do it where you can set it up on your phone and then come to the desktop and fire it up. I wasn't able to figure it out. Of course, I got up kind of late. So I was running over here. I was jumping in the shower, making myself presentable. I had to grab my cup of green tea so I can wake up a little bit. Run over here thinking all I had to do was just fire it up. It didn't work out that way. So anyway, and then I started looking around. I don't have my ducks in a row. I don't have my lapel microphone ready to go. And so I'm using the phone microphone for this live stream. Anyway, I was going to talk about another very boring subject this morning, and that has to do with how much money you need in order to live in the Philippines, especially if you'd be interested in this, especially if you're from the West. But let's talk about what's going on here in the Philippines with income before we get into that. And income in the Philippines, I think the average wage earner here in the Philippines. Hey, Buddha of Destiny is here. If you're on StreamYard, you can do it, he says. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, maybe I gotta put up also. I gotta put up my live stream on this big screen that I have in front of me. But I'm going to be using it for something else. If the world was ending today, I want to be next. Okay. All right, but it may be ending today. That's the thing. So it's good advice just to live your life as though it is your last day on earth, right? That's my advice. How's it going, Buddha? I haven't seen you in a long time. Could be even a year. That's okay. That's cool. I'm glad you're here today. So it's probably because I come on so late at night in the States. So anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the average income, I don't want to speak from a factual point of view. My friends tell me that Filipinos live on income of somewhere between $400 and $600 per month. That would be the equivalent to American money. And so that would be somewhere probably between 20,000 and 30,000 pesos per month. Robert is here. Hi, Robert. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can give me your suggestions on, or tell me what you live on if you feel like you want to reveal that. That's income is sort of a personal thing. So anyway, I was surprised because I was trying to find out last night. I mean, if you think about it, if you're able to survive on $400 to $600 a month, if you're Filipino, then why wouldn't a foreigner be able to survive on that kind of money? On that type of money. Buddha's saying 1K a month is what Buddha lives off of, which is, I think, goes a long way, depending on where you live. And that includes the United States. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. So $400 to $600 a month. I went in last night and I was saying, okay, who's making $400 per month? Who's making $600? And what I discovered kind of shocked me a little bit. I wasn't expecting this. But I found out something that's very interesting. And that is that If you're an RN, let's take that as an example. If you're a nurse, right, and you're working at St. Luke's in Manila as an RN, we're talking a registered nurse. The starting pay at St. Luke's Hospital, if the online information I found is correct, is somewhere around 20,000 pesos per month. And there's a little bit of disconnect there because 20,000 pesos a month would be about $400 in American money, and Manila is a very expensive place to live, right? In other words, the rents are a little bit higher in Manila than they are anywhere else. And that's probably because that's where the jobs are. Buddha's saying it's hard. It's hard when you got to pay your bills, medication, etc., etc. Yes, it is. It can be difficult anywhere you live, quite frankly, even here in the Philippines. And so, $400 a month in Manila to work at St. Luke's, which is in the heart of Quezon City, is doesn't seem like enough money to me, especially if you're sending money home to help your family and those types of things. And so I was kind of surprised by that because if you're working, by the way, St. Luke's is a private hospital. Uh, but if you're working in a public hospital and it's a government-run public hospital, which a lot of them are, you're going to have the opportunity to make a little bit more money. So that's kind of strange because in the United States, it's kind of like the polar opposite or the direct opposite. So if you're working at a private hospital, you're going to be making a lot more money than if you're working in the public hospital or the equivalent of a public hospital. Now, there might be a reason for that, but I'm not sure what it is. So nurses in general in the United States make a hell of a lot of money. They make a very, very good income, especially if they're working in a hospital. And depending on what type of RN you are, an emergency room nurse, surgical nurses make a lot of money. Pressy Manzanero is here. Good morning. Thanks for sharing it out. But $400 to live in Manila don't seem like it's hardly enough money to get by on. And so in order to make that work, they must have to roommate, they must have to find bed spacer type situations where they're only paying, I don't know, between 2 and 3,000 pesos per month, or the equivalent of about $60. There has to be, you have to find equity in that you have limitations. Your income are those limitations, and if you want to help your family out, then sacrifices have to be made. But not necessarily, because nurses, they probably get together after a while and they start sharing information about where the best places are to live that are budget friendly, and they may even collaborate together. You might have 2 or 3 nurses getting together in Manila, and they might be renting a nice apartment in a very desirable place of Manila and sharing the rent and the expenses. One person works the day shift, one person works the mid shift, the afternoon shift, and one person is going to work the night shift. And so they have this thing where they're very rarely all there at the same time because everybody's busy working. And generally speaking, they're working about 6 days a week, for that money. And so that means they hardly ever run into each other. If they do, on occasion, they'll all be in the 22 or 24 square meter apartment, which is very tiny, comfortable enough for me, by the way, and Man Minnie, because we've done it before. It's basically studio apartment living. They're the kind of apartments that are now popping up all over the United States. Particularly the one that I have knowledge of is in Sacramento, California. They're starting to convert government buildings over to 24, 25 square meter apartments. And quite frankly, people are renting them. And so, but what's happening here in the Philippines is that there are YouTube channels out there that are saying that, and I think it's kind of like, I think they're alarmist in a way, or alarming in a way, because they're trying to get increases they're trying to get views. the same as I am, right? But I try and control myself. I try not to get excited and present things as though they're it's an it's a crisis. We're in panic mode. Do something. Do it right away. Nurses don't get rest or respect. That is very tough. And yeah, that's right. Well, it's definitely very tough here because it's low pay and it's very demanding. Their responsibilities in a lot of cases. So, uh, and also, but I I understand what you're saying, Buddha. If you're looking at comparing it to nurses in the United States, it's quite different. Nurses in the United States, they're in a very, very similar position, and they tend to burn out quicker, thus creating the demand for nurses in the U.S., right? And so they come over here to the Philippines and other countries, and they look for this young, educated population of nurses, and they hire them. They hire them and help them through the visa process. They can take them back to the United States to work. I know several people who have relatives now working in the United States as nurses. It is a very, very tough field to be in, yes. Irene and Irish is here. I don't think they have a very, very long shelf life. As a matter of fact, I have two of my boys are RNs working in the States. One of them works at the Mayo Clinic, and the other one, until recently, has been a traveling nurse. Larice Jusset is here, and they were telling me, we can't do this forever. Or one of them was telling me anyway, Dad, I can't do this forever. It's just too demanding. It's too stressful. It's too much. You can only do this when you're young. So anyway, I don't know. That's the profession they chose, and so they're going to have to figure out what their limitations are. Oh yeah, I know. It's easier to treat animals sometimes than it is humans. Here in the Philippines, that may definitely be true, because caregivers, and if you're in that particular category, also they have very very demand. It's so demanding. As a family friend was talking to us about it last night. She's seeking a position as a caregiver overseas in maybe Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Singapore, places like that, where they pay more, and a little bit, they treat you a little bit more humanely, I guess is what I wanted to say. Because here in the Philippines, it's a very, very low pay, and you work long hours, 12, sometimes 15 hours a day for very, very little pay. Here, a caregiver probably is making, I don't know, somewhere between I would say 10 and 12, maybe thousand pesos a month, something like that. And that's not very much money to survive on. But a lot of those positions are live-in positions, and so a lot go to Hawaii. Mayo Clinic, yes, very, very. It's very, very. It's a very nice position to be able to obtain if you can get a job at the Mayo Clinic. So anyway, let's talk about what's going on here in the Philippines in particular, and how it relates to how much money you need to live here. I did a video using AI, right? Chat GPT, it's called, right? And so we went in there because I didn't want to take responsibility for my answers. I don't want to present them as being undeniable truth or undeniable fact. And so we use Chat GPT for a lot of the information, and they aggregate it. So they'll sweep the web and they'll come up with answers for you. And I asked them, what is the average cost for a Westerner to live in Cebu? And the answer was $800 per month should cover you, right? And I'm in agreement with that, actually. Even though a lot of Westerners are saying that this won't provide you with a life that you've been accustomed to living, right? But I'm saying, well, how is your life, Buddha, living there in the USA on $1,000 per month? Thought you said it was very, very difficult. Well, I think that if you had that same $1,000 and you were moving here to the Philippines, you could live just about anywhere. I question whether you'd be able to afford to live in Manila, but I would say that you could live in the outlying areas surrounding Manila, and that $1,000 that you're making would go a very, very long way. So in Cebu, it would go even further because it's a little bit less expensive to live in Cebu. As you know, or probably know, we're just a 3 hour ferry ride, fast ferry ride across the water from Cebu. So we're there often, and Minnie and I rented an apartment there for 6 months last year that was running us somewhere around 270 to 300, maybe $350 per month all in. And that's very, very inexpensive. So, yes, I would say that stress reduction is an important part of any person's life, and you get that here in the Philippines. You get there because you don't have to worry about all those stressors that exist in the United States. For example, how to put food on the table if you've only got $1,000 per month. That would be difficult for Minnie and I to do. That's just a fact. And it is very chill, especially if you're retired like we are and you don't have those obligations of having to commute to work. And so uh, the point here is that it is relative depending on what type of Western lifestyle you're living. But I've had people send me ridiculous emails, that say to me, Dan, you can't live in the Philippines on $1,000 per month. And then I will ask them, well, how much money are you living on now? And they'll say $1,000 per month. Are you following what I'm saying, Buddha? And so the fact of the matter is, if you can live in the United States on $1,000 per month, you could live even better here in the Philippines on $1,000 per month, and most places around the world. And what are those most places? Even if you wanted to cross over the border into Mexico, you're going to live cheaper in Mexico than you will in the United States. That's almost a fact, a known fact. Now it's getting more expensive because it's growing very, very quickly economically. If you go down there, you're going to see condominiums going up everywhere. You're going to see, especially in the border towns, and that is because they can offer up a lower cost of living, and they just are right over the border from the United States. That's ridiculous, right? But the deal killer really is housing. That's really what we focus on because housing is the biggest nut that you have to crack when moving anywhere. You have to have a roof over your head. Listen, there are a lot of people that are homeless in the United States, particularly in the Sunbelt regions of California, for example, Arizona, Nevada, some parts of Nevada. In fact, homeless folks are kind of smart, or the unhoused. They're kind of smart. And also, some of them are getting income. They have income. They just can't afford housing. And so they end up improvising and creating their own home, and they do it in the most creative way. And so I understand what a lot of folks are going through and doing in the Sunbelt areas of the United States. Good morning, Chrissy Mama. Thank you for stopping by. And it makes perfectly good sense to me. I would be a great unhoused person. I deal with that daily, but I take it day by day. Well, that's how you survive in the United States. And one meal a day, exactly, was going to be, it can't hurt you to eat one meal a day, even though people here in the Philippines, they strive for 3 meals a day. Rice is nice. Rice is everything here in the Philippines, and it actually becomes the main part of the meal. And then you supplement that meal with vegetables, or if you're so lucky, you can afford to eat meat. When that's a great day. So, but I noticed something. That's happening. By the way, we're going to be doing a video with Jeff Calhoun again. Jeff Calhoun, former professional football player, who's a very, very good friend of mine, a neighbor. and we're gonna be talking about what it costs to live in Bye Bye City Leyte again sometime soon. And because the last time we did a video, it was living in Bye Bye City Leyte on $800 a month, and because that was Jeff's budget. And so now things have got to have changed because we did that video something like 2 or 3 years ago. I want to point out before I get more in depth about money, and how much money you should have or need. Everybody wants money, of course. Money, 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 money. Money matters. The more, the merrier. I want money. Everybody in the world wants money. Greenbacks. Give me the greenbacks. So, but bottom line is your biggest expense is housing. And so it's how you slay that beast. What does housing look like in the Philippines? And people have been putting videos out there, and they're showing that there's a collapse of the condo market. There's a collapse of this, a collapse of that. All right, your collapse, what you consider to be a collapse, is just, is just a correction to me. It's not a collapse. I don't see the collapse. A collapse would mean the value of a condo would be cut. To me, it means it would be cut in half. That it would be 2008 or 2010 all over again. The equivalent of what happened in the United States. By the way, what happened in the United States in 2008 and 2010, a big sucking sound, where everybody's money went down the drain and the value of housing went down the drain. That didn't happen here during that same period of time in the Philippines. But what's interesting to me today, and what prompted me to do this video talking about this money situation and a little bit about the economy, is the fact that it now appears to be, they call it a housing bubble, but it seems to be going global. It seems to be going global. And I think one thing that might be impacting it here in the Philippines has to do with the pogo workers, right? The operators, the casino operators, the online gamblers that were employing, from what I understand, over 8,000 Filipinos to work the call centers and to handle the reconciliation of the money. We have a relative who actually does that for a living. So you have 8,000 workers, and all of a sudden they decide that they're sending everybody home. They decided that they no longer want the onlines because it's attracting too much organized crime here in the Philippines. But quite frankly, there may be a different reason why this is happening, or I should say, yes, a better way of saying it would be another reason. And that other reason would be you have brick and mortar casinos here in the Philippines that have spent millions, if not billions of dollars building plush, luxurious hotel, beautiful accommodations like the one Minnie and I stayed in at Seaside at the New Star Hotel. Go check that video out. Go check that video out. I'll put it up here. No, I won't. I don't know how to do that. I crack myself up. You're building your house, Sir Dan. It was a few years back. Yeah, the timing was good. Of course, Mammy and I, we were paying attention. It wasn't done. We just didn't make a decision saying, oh yeah, let's build a house. Duh. We actually did our homework. We're looking at the demographic trends. We're looking at the economic trends. We're looking at everything. And so it just so happened that the global pandemic gave us a boost. It gave us an opportunity. And when opportunity, presents itself, you have to take advantage of it. Yes, well, it's all relative. Yes, to me, it's expensive for me. If, quite frankly, for example, the building of a house, let's talk about that. If you were to try and duplicate this house in the Philippines, expect to pay double what it costs for us to build this house. And so, see, that's what we're talking about. So inflation stops for no one. The cost of materials and things continue to go up as labor costs and material costs rise. And so what happened here, quite frankly, was we got lucky. We got lucky because people panicked when they started shutting everything down during the global pandemic. What ended up happening was the manufacturers of materials and the sellers of materials didn't know how to react. They didn't know how to react. They had projects that were in progress, and now they had to send their entire labor force home, both skilled labor and general labor. Everybody had to go home, right? And so what ended up happening was that, and they were stuck with the materials. So what happened? There was a price drop. There was a dramatic price drop. They couldn't give the stuff away, and so they were selling things for pennies on the dollar. And we're talking about everything, everything you need to build a house. And so, man, Minnie and I, we ran with it. We took advantage of the opportunity. Let's go buy all the surplus hollow blocks. Let's go buy all the overstock of copper wire. Let's go buy, you see, you have to jump at it. You have to take a chance. So we took a chance. And guess what happened with the labor? They were all sitting at home. So we put the word out. Come here. We will pay you. We'll pay you the prevailing wage in order to help us build this house. And guess how many people show up? More people than we could hire, more people than we could ever use. That we had at one point, we must have had 50 workers on the build site. And I'm trying to keep everybody from running into each other, doing different tasks. See? So it worked out. It worked out, and we're blessed because it did. But now there's another opportunity, Buddha, and people living in the Philippines. And I think a lot of people are seeing it, and that is that the cost of housing is starting to decline because people are saying that it's because the online workers went home. And so it left a huge vacancy rate. They abandoned their apartments, they abandoned their houses, they abandoned their rental units, and they went back home. And that has left a huge void. Oh, Kuya Poji, sorry, just found this live. Did you not use the contractor? No, would never do that. I would never do that. I would never do that. Never ever. Even if I were building a home in the United States, I never would do that. No. I built the entire house by watching YouTube videos. Yeah. No. We were very fortunate in that one of the foremen on a prior job who was looking for work had built a house for one of our relatives, and then we just said, "Hey, you got anything to do?" He says, "No, we'll bring your crew this away and start building this house." The actual design of the house was done on a scrap piece of paper. And here we are, right? So, no, it didn't turn out looking like a scrap piece of paper. It turned out looking pretty nice. It looks like any Western style track home that you would find anywhere in the USA. Lorraine Pajares is here. Good morning. Good morning. So there's opportunity here. I didn't say necessary to build. I didn't say if you're going to build today, you would have to build if you're going to do concrete. We use hollow block, that was later rendered. But if you're going to do it differently, because I was stuck in California, we were doing this all through video feed. This is how this thing was done. Once we made all our connections, then we had people with cameras, set up. And then they just went around and they were showing, step by step, moment by moment, what was going on with the house. And so I was at work, I would have 2 or 3 camera angles going, and I would be able to see exactly what was going on. And whenever I detected an issue or a problem, then I would just say, "Oh, stop, wait. I just paid an architect $500 to design our home." Well, the cost of designing our home was a number 2 pencil and a notepad. So whatever that costs. Would I advise anybody to do it that way? Well, you got to remember that we were in the midst of the global pandemic. There was nobody around. I mean, let's face it. Governmental offices were closed. They were all closed at that time. And so, you know, uh, well, basically, I got to tell you, Kuyapoji, it turned out. So here's what happened. I'll tell you how it turned out. If you were to look at our house in Sacramento and then look at this house here, right? It's an exact replica of the house in Sacramento, except it's made out of hollow block. Now, if I were to do it again, of course, and I were actually here on site, uh, then I would probably cast it. I would cast parts of the house. I would probably cast I probably would cast the floors and the walls first. I would cast the floor and the walls first and make them one uni-pour, one continuous pour. But we haven't had any problems with the construction of this home whatsoever, except that we're still chasing down roof leaks because those roofers, they really didn't do such a great job. They were very fast, and there's certain things that you have to have knowledge of about the roofs that I didn't at the time, and so they got away with, and no one did that was working here. And so when the roofing contractors we did have to hire, but when they came in, they were supervising themselves, and they just flew through doing the roof. Well, there are things that you have to do to seal it up to make sure that it doesn't leak. For example, if you're going to build and you're going to put a steel panel corrugated roof like they do here in the Philippines, you have to run a line. You have to run a bead of Volcaseal between those connections, those seals, because if you don't do that, the water you wouldn't think that it would find its way in between where the panels are meeting and overlapping. It does. It does. And so we've had to chase those leaks down. How we basically did it was, no, we didn't lift the roof up and then go back and put Volcaseal in there or put unvulcanized rubber underneath there. What we ended up doing was sealing it from the top the best we can, and then putting extra coats of paint so that the latex paint would seep into those cracks, that were left behind. And it actually worked because you're not talking about huge gaps. You're talking about they're overlaying each other and they're fitting pretty tight. But moisture, just because of temperature change and condensation, has a tendency to get underneath there. And so you got to make sure the roof's the most important part. You got to make sure that you're there supervising that when you're doing the roof. Yeah, that's exactly right, Buddha. You got to be there because they'll take all kind of shortcuts, I've noticed. And we ran into the roofing guy, and he ran from us when he saw us in town. Now, what would make a guy do that? I was just going to walk up and say hello to him, but of course he thought I was coming up there to complain. It's funny. It really is funny. No. You get what you pay for here in the Philippines, and it's on you if you don't have somebody there supervising. Yeah, he ordered reflective tar type paint and coated the house roof because he got tired of chasing. That's right. That's right. And so that's a way of doing it. I just painted it, but every season you can paint it. It requires this kind of maintenance anyway, because the salt there, the salt in the air, because we're an island. So you got all this moisture, all this salt destroying your roof, wanting to work against you. That's why you see so many roofs that are sealed up, that have holes in them, and then they find all kinds of creative ways of sealing them up, putting tarps over the top of the roofs and the like, He ordered reflective tar type paint. You know what? Tar type paint. Yes, that makes sense to me. You would coat it in that type of a paint, a type that's going to seal it up. Or you would coat it, I would imagine clear coat would work. I would imagine latex paint would work because the rubber will make its way into all those open areas. But we're still chasing down leaks, but we now know pretty much where they're at, and what we have to do in order to seal them up. So everything pretty much was has been taken care of. The major leaks, have been taken care of. Mike Merritt, good morning to the fabulously beautiful Minnie and her Asawa Dan. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here. All right, so let's talk about it. So there isn't. Let's move on a little bit further. Building your house is the best idea that we ever had, and I would recommend it to anyone who is planning on settling down here in the Philippines. But now listen, here's the critique. Of course, Kuya Poji, I got all kinds of criticism, right? He says, let's see, I was video chatting with him while he did it, and he used a mop and coated the whole thing. Yes, I love it. I love hearing this. I think it took the guys a day, or two men about a day and a couple of hours in order to finish the job when they came and repainted it. And then of course we wiped out probably 80% of the leaks just by doing that. But now, if there's a tar paint that you could buy, that makes more sense to me. We use latex. So maybe the next go around, we're gonna investigate that. So when the rainy season comes, you have to be prepared. And a lot of people, they don't do the roof maintenance, and so it starts to deteriorate and then fall apart, and then you're stuck with having to get up there and replace it. Now, it's not expensive to replace roof panels once the infrastructure and the framing is all in. You're just removing them and putting in new, but you don't really want to fool around with it, I don't think. You want to get the most life out of these panels as you possibly can. So you don't go with a cheap one. You go with we went with the medium grade one because it was too expensive to go with the high end one, and so we said, okay, we can't go with the low end one, but we'll go with medium, and so that's what we ended up doing. It worked out, except for the roof leaks. Yeah. All right, so now what I want to talk about 37 minutes into the stream is of course it's all relative how much money you need to live in the Philippines, but he said that the tar paint stops the leaks and salt corrosion, adding life. Yes, anything that you put on there is gonna help. I'm telling you, just don't leave it uncovered. He said it was more expensive but adds years to the metal. Yes, it sounds like a brilliant idea. I want to do it. I didn't know there was such a thing as tar paint, but now I want to do it. Now, thanks to you, I'm going to go investigate it, and I'm going to find out what it's all about. We're doing some other work we have it, because the wind blows so severely here at times, the rain also travels sideways. So where all the corners and things are meeting, we also have leak issues there. But we have a plan in order to take care of it. Did you use coated roof and screws had rubber? Yeah, we did. We did all that. It still leaked because they didn't vulcanize. They didn't use the raw rubber or the Vulcaseal in between when they were layering them in. You have to put Vulcaseal in there and then put the next panel down. You just can't put metal to metal, right? Because the condensation is going to find its way underneath there. So that's what ended up happening. All right. It's not really a big deal. This is about the level, I would say, in terms of stress level, it's about the same as that car. It was about the same as getting the Suzuki fixed. Those guys were absolutely amazing, but we still have a little rattle that we have to figure out where that's coming from. It could be timing, and or it could be spark plugs. The spark plugs were pretty beat up when we dropped that engine out of that Suzuki. Anyway, the Suzuki's parked right out there, and you start it up, and it's like this. It's beautiful, right? It's just like running like a Swiss watch. I mean, it's beautiful. Filipinos are amazing what they could do with hand tools, right? So let's talk about apartment rent. Because is there a crash going on in condo living and apartment rents? It's not exactly a crash. Dun, dun, dun. There go all my views. It's not exactly a crash, I would say. It is an adjustment because in the past, what's been happening here is no matter what, condo owners and landlords have been holding the line on price, and I never could understand it because there were a ton of apartments to rent and condos to rent and houses to buy here in the Philippines, and so if they're just sitting there for years, you know, and not producing income for the owner, I just couldn't understand it. Why wouldn't you lower the price? And that's because it's so cheap to build and it's so inexpensive to comparatively when you compare it to the West to buy a home here that they can afford to service the mortgage on the money that they got. And so if they hold out in order to get their price that they're demanding for that property, they hope that some foreigner is going to come along and go, "Oh man, that's only 20%. That house only costs 20% of what it would cost in the United States." And so, but yet they're getting top dollar for it here in the Philippines. Well, guess what's happening? If you go into Locanto real estate section, you're going to see that everything is starting to drop. Not everything, but everything. In other words, in the United States, this is starting to happen. There's a sucking sound as the prices start to drop. Yeah, the prices start to drop of housing in the United States and a lot of places in the West. People cannot afford to service that mortgage. Delinquency rates on credit card payments and buying on time are going crazy. Fast food places are going out of business. No customers. People are eating more at home. People cannot service their debt, and so insurance rates are going up. The cost of buying a car is going up. It's going crazy. Mike says I see a lot of cars available in Dumaguete. Also, prices are different for Filipinos. Yes, they always will be different. But check this out. If you go into Locanto, and I'm just going to I'm looking at apartments for rent. And I'm not looking for any particular area. So I just started to notice that things are going down, but not necessarily in the luxury areas of uh, of Cebu or Manila. You know, the places like IT Park and things like that. I'm seeing price drop, but they're not as significant as they are in the second in the tertiary. How do you say it? The secondary and third markets. You know, the ring that goes around the city. The further out you move from the center of town, the higher the decline. Well, prices generally were lower anyway if you moved out into the suburbs. But here, they're declining at a higher rate, at a higher percentage. So you're still going to be paying big money if you want to live in the high rent district, right? I'm only seeing very, very slow, measured movements in the rental rates. But, for example, right here, I'm just looking at one. I'm just looking at one in Lahug, fully furnished studio for rent in B Residences Lahug with balcony. Be the first renter. So now this is a brand new condo project, and they're asking, in my opinion, since I know Lahug very well, Mammy and I stayed there. It's one of our favorite places to hang out because it's only a 15-minute walk one direction to Ayala Mall and 15 minutes walk the other way into IT Park. Perfectly uh, centered in Lahug, and you can walk, get your exercise in. 15 minutes, boom, boom, you're there. Life is grand, but in Canada they're going way up. Well, I won't be moving to Canada anytime soon because you told me that, Mike. Stay out of Canada. But here they want 25,000 pesos a month for a 25 square meter apartment. And I'm telling you, and it has basic furnishings. It's only semi-furnished. I'm telling you that's too much, brand new or not. balcony or not. It's too much. You can get a studio apartment in La Hougue for somewhere around $300 or $270 per month all day long in newer complexes. So, but my point is that you're starting to get more apartment for less money. And so this apartment, this is a bad example. That particular one. I wish I could show it to you online. Go into Lecanto and you can see. Also, it's been historically true that the higher up you go in the building, the more the rent is. And I think that's pretty much still the same. But again, I'm noticing that apartments are starting to come down. You're starting to see apartments for 10,000 pesos a month. And some at 8 and 9, and they're perfectly fine. I just found one. Oh, well, this is interesting now because Baguio City is in demand. People like to live there. So I just pulled one up. Apartment for rent in Baguio City. 2 bedrooms, 45 square meters, which is a nice size. 10,000 pesos. That's 2-bedroom fully furnished. Pets allowed, with parking, with your own gate, with hot and cold water. 1 month advance only. You see, this is the other thing that I'm seeing. You can tell that they're struggling when they do this. Only 1 month in advance only. So that's the first month's rent and the last. Typically here in the Philippines, they want the first month rent and 2 months for security deposit, which is kind of ridiculous, right? But that's the way it works here. And so in this ad, 10,000 pesos per month, that's less than $200 a month. What is that, Mike? About 180 or so? Valencia prices seem to be going down on resale houses. That people are they're not coming here, Mike. They're leaving. They got tired of fighting. People were asking ridiculous prices for stuff, and some people just plain don't have patience. They can't wait for the trend. They're retired. Could be their last day on earth, as Buddha was pointing out. So if it's your last day on earth, you better make your move. And so, like I said, because of the pogo workers leaving, that caused a little bit of a vacuum. But I still don't think, even though everybody's citing this as the reason, I don't really think that that's the main reason. I think that the Philippines just plain overbuilt. So now if you're in Baguio City, Mike, when was the last time you were in Baguio? You know what that's all about. Brand new university, brand new mall, brand new everything, right? Building everywhere. And here you have this apartment for rent, less than $200 a month, 45 square meters, which is big for a studio, 2-bedroom, fully furnished, pets allowed, parking given, own gate, private entry, 1 month only advance, and Upper A Bonifacio General Luna near SLU Main Gate. We're requiring for a partial reservation prior to viewing, which I wouldn't do. So this catches my attention. Partial reservation to view. No, I would pass on this one. I'm not giving you any money to take a look at your apartment. Mini apartment for rent in Cubao. Pesos 14,000, 1-bedroom, 80 square meters. A mini apartment available for rent for a couple or 2 occupants in the heart of Cubao. Just giving you an example. I wasn't running into these 90 days ago, folks. In fact, apartments were kind of hard to come by. They rented them through word of mouth, and now they're advertising on Locanto because they can't find renters. Townhouse for rent near Mactan Newtown, a very desirable location. Pesos 9,000, a 2-bedroom, 50 square meters. Apartment for rent. 1 CR, semi-furnished aircon, personal rough bed. I don't know what that means. Anyway, you get the idea. And they're expensive ones that are salted in here. They're expensive. You have people trying to rent their penthouse apartments, but Mike, how lucky do you think they will be able to rent their penthouse apartment, their 3 bedroom, 285 square meters for pesos 220,000 per month? Who has that kind of money, even at Pacific Plaza, Ayala Avenue in Makati City? Yeah, that sounds swell. You have to be a millionaire in order to be able to afford that. Apartment for rent in Mandawi, near Mercado, near the market. 10,000 per month, 1 bedroom, 23 square meters. That sounds reasonable to me for this area. Mandawi, 1 room, 1 toilet and bath, scooter parking only, 3 person limit. So they're allowing 3 people to live in 23 square meters when before they limited it to 2. Limit 1 month advance, 1 month deposit, except that it has to be a 1 year contract. But if I'm going in there, I'm negotiating 6 months. I'm not going to negotiate a year. Mike says, I think many people from the West are waiting to see what is going on in the USA and Canada. Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. So there are areas in the United States that you can still live just as inexpensively. I'm talking about housing now, rent and mortgage, as you can in the Philippines. People would say to me, Dan, it ain't true, blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, I could show you those places. They are Cleveland, Ohio, Akron. There are places in northern Indiana, southern Illinois, all over Michigan. If you're retired, and most people that are living here are retired, well then, you're not having to commute to work. What's your deal? You just have to go out there and gather wood for your fireplace. You're not traveling anywhere. Learn how to shovel snow. Hire the kid down the road if there's a kid, and say, hey, hire that college student. Go shovel snow for me. Here's one that's $700 a month in Cebu, 35,000, 2 bedroom, 56 square meters. That's a little rich for me for a second home, but 2 bedroom furnished condo in Amalfi Oasis, direct renter only. Don't send me an agent. I don't blame this guy. Condo details furnished. Floor area 56 square meter, 2 bedroom, 1 toilet, 1 bath, parking lot unit included, hot and cold shower, induction cooker, refrigerator, washing machine, air con unit with dinner table. Yeah, you'd have to come down a little bit to attract me to renting that. Another apartment near Mandawi, 10,000 pesos, 23 square meter. So these apartments were going for 15,000 pesos per month, somewhere around 3 to 6 months ago when I was looking around. Minnie had been talking, and I'm trying to convince her that I want to look around for another stop-by apartment, so that when we're traveling, especially if we're traveling out of Manila or Cebu, we have some place to go. Heck, maybe even rent 2 places, one in Cebu and one in Manila. I'm not really sure. I know I want to do something. It's just a matter of convincing Minnie that it makes sense, because hotels are expensive, and it doesn't take very long to pay a month's worth of rent. If you're staying in a decent hotel for any length of time, in 10 days stay, you can make up for that a whole month's worth of rent in an apartment in any one of the metropolitan areas of Cebu or Manila. And since you're flying out of those major airports there, then you don't want to be hard pressed for time. You don't want to have to worry about things like late check-in, early check-in, and all that other garbage. So when we were living in La Hogue, when we had that apartment at 18 suites, things were beautiful. Life was beautiful. Can you imagine? Anytime we got itchy, we just would come back home, and then next day come back if we wanted to. It gave us that kind of flexibility. If you rent a place, can you rent it out if away? Well, that, I think most landlords, you'd have to negotiate that. I'm not sure that they would, if they were going to do short-term rental, they'd be doing it themselves. So I'm not so sure you would be successful negotiating a deal like that. But it would be nice. You could certainly share it with friends. I mean, you could give your friends a key and say, "Hey, go use the apartment when you're over there in Cebu." I mean, that would be a beautiful thing. Whether they kick you down a tip or something, that would be another matter. You know, right? Hey, instead of paying that 2,000 pesos, why don't you just give me 500 and go stay in the apartment? I'm sure they'd love it, Mike. That's a good point. All right, what about houses? I'm just curious. So that's apartments. What about houses? Where do I go for houses? Houses. Two-bedroom flats, townhouses, let me see. I got to go back in time here. I got to go I got to scroll back. For sale, condos for sale. Mike, you mentioned about Dumagetti. If you rent a place, can you rent it out? That's what you'd have to negotiate. Okay. No, I'm not going to set an alert. All right, studio apartment, 27 square meters. Oh, this is Baguio City. No, I think we want something a little bit closer to home. Why do they put all the expensive stuff up front on Locanto? Not everybody wants to live in the high rent district. Not every foreigner wants to live. So they're talking about condos being overbuilt. And so this is what kind of blows me away. So here you have a brand new condo for sale here. 4,200,000 pesos. Right? What is that? $80,000 and change, Mike? And this is going to be 26 square meter in Calix Center, direct renter only. I think we've seen this guy also on the rental side. So this looks like the same apartment. So not only is he not having luck selling it, he's not having any luck renting it. It's empty. This is what I'm talking about. But I think 80 million, when supply and demand is the way it is, it ain't gonna work out for this guy. It is not gonna work out. I don't think. I don't think it's gonna work out. Because my friends are telling me that you're going to be able to get deals on houses out there, even here in Bye Bye City, which I find hard to believe. Oh, so now here's somebody that's just spamming the ads. That's just wonderful. They're all different apartments in one condo project. They must be empty, empty, empty. Oh no, this is speculation. Listen, I'm still getting stopped every now and again in the mall where people are coming to me and they're saying, "You want to invest in a condo?" I said, "Not in your life. I'm going to do it." You know? No way. There's no way I would ever do it in this market. How are you able to make a living? I usually ask them. How are you able to do it? Because nobody's buying anything. Building is still the best in the Philippines. Buy a piece of land and build a simple house. And that's what I'm all about. This isn't what I would call a simple house. This is more like a Western style tract home. But Mike, you know what? I do want to do it. I want to do it to show that you can build a house for 20,000 American dollars. I want it or less, a simple house, very, very functional, that has all the bells and whistles. I know I can do it for less than 20K. And so that is going to be the goal. That's a future goal. And so I can hardly wait till we find the piece of land to build it on. Because maybe we don't. Maybe we'll lease the land. Maybe we'll convince a relative to let us to build on their land and give them a little something, something every month. Do one of those 99-year leases everybody's talking about. Okay, so here's 33.96 square meter condo with balcony in Antipolo, and this is going for 7 million. So, and it does not look like it's a brand new unit. It looks like it's been around. Condo for sale in Calacan, Metro Manila, 23.76 square meter, 5,066,000. Yeah, so anyway, there's hundreds of them on here. I mean, they're just so another way you can tell that there's an upside for you, in using your negotiating skills, is the fact that there's so many damn ads on Locanto. So in the United States, they will the ads are the way that they dictate or they predict economic trends. But here you couldn't do it. See, here you couldn't do it because people they post ads that don't exist and things like that. So you couldn't do it that way. But if you go to the United States, you can take a look and you're able to predict trends based on the ads that are running. And it's harder to do it here on a site such as Locanto because people are spamming all the time. They're spamming ads, so you don't know really how many units are available, what the actual median price is. You can't. It's unpredictable, and so it's very very difficult to do that here. But they're still trying to get you to speculate, and I think that I don't think it's going to work out for them. I don't think those people that are out there trying to get people to speculate on the investment property is going to work out because there's just too much stuff out there in the market already built that you could see, touch, feel, and visit. And then you can decide what you want to do there. I'm looking to build a steel and glass house raised just a one bedroom living room and CR with a tub kitchen is on the ground under the house. Oh yeah, Mike, that is my idea, not a steel house, even though that would be interesting to try. But that we saw a 100 square meter property for sale. It was very inexpensive, something like 5,000 American dollars. But that was my plan that I drew on the piece of paper. I said this has to be elevated, and the kitchen has to be underneath the house. The kitchen area would be underneath it, and then we would do a surface-mounted septic system for easy access because you know how they're getting away from they're getting away a little bit from putting them in the ground and vaulting them, right? And then running a weeping line. Now they're kind of like you still would be running a weeping line, but I mean now the tanks are starting to show up at City Hardware, and so I thought, man, this is a cool idea, but you don't want it to float, so you'd have to bolt it down onto a concrete pad. So it probably would be directly underneath the elevated house, and I'm almost sure it would cost less than 20K American in order to build. Anime Riz is here. Good morning, good morning. So, I mean, it's exciting to think about. So you can build it up and then put your kitchen underneath the home. Of course, the only thing you have to worry about is making sure that nobody sets your house on fire. That's one thing you'd have to worry about, right? Right, Mike? You can't have somebody leaving the propane tank on high. You just can't do it. You have to make sure you have to be very very careful to make sure that everything was shut off so that your house didn't catch on fire because someone left a burner on or they left the gas running and the gas is coming up and invading your living space. You wake up asleep one night. You know what I mean. Yeah, that's why steel so won't. But even steel, see, it has to be a certain type of steel has to have a certain coating on it so that it isn't able to ignite. Because there are a lot of steel compositions they can still ignite, right, Mike? And so we have to check that out. I mean, I think I've seen metal on fire before. So Beth this year, hi Beth. So, how much money do you need then? I mean, if you're a Filipino, I would be the last person in the world. I've already said this a few times on other vlogs that would tell somebody how much money they need in order to live in the Philippines because you can live here on almost any budget. You know, if you're a single person, you could live here on almost any budget. And and what makes me a little bit jealous, and I don't mind sharing this with you, Des, Jason was a winner last night. Congratulations to you. 333 with the number 3. Whoa, that's kind of spiritual. Well, anyway, I'm sure it's not lost on you that that was pretty lucky. Thanks so much, Beth. So the thing is that you have to be smart about how you spend that money. But if you're a single person, I mean, I've given this number out a lot of times. Some people believe me and some people don't. But we run this entire household of 5 and 6 people at any given time. And our budget is, we're at the halfway mark. Minnie and I were just going over the budget to making sure that our numbers are going to hit the mark. And we do it on $1,200 per month or less. But that is our budget. So that's $1,200. If you were a single person and you could find an apartment here in Cebu or in Manila or outside of Manila. You can find $100 per month apartment. You know, you can find probably cheaper than that and furnish it and make it your home. If you're single, you're going to be able to live on very little money. And so, but I am amazed. Like I said, I can't help it repeating myself. These are blue blocker glasses, by the way, because the blue screen affects my vision. But I've been working with computers and stuff most of my the last 25 years, and so that takes a toll on your eyesight. I recommend everybody use the blue blockers. So anyway, the bottom line is that you'll be able to find an accommodation that fits your budget. And you can also in the United States, we wouldn't have had a problem living in the U.S. We wouldn't have been able to live in Sacramento. We would have had to move because I want to remain debt free. I don't have to owe anybody any money. You know, I don't owe anybody any money now, and that allows me all this opportunity to host giveaways without asking for sponsors on my own sponsor. It also gives me the opportunity to have more flexibility in travel, which Man Minnie's enjoying. I bet you if you asked Man Minnie 25 years ago, she would not have been able to guess that one day she would be traveling all over the world just on a whim. Honey, let's go to the airport and get on a plane. Let's go here. Let's go there. You know, and I know she's enjoying her life. She shares that with me all the time, and I'm certainly enjoying mine. And so I imagine that if you're living on a very, very tight budget in the U.S., you know, how much tighter could it possibly be if you got on a plane and you moved here to the Philippines? I have had people, though, say some terrible things to me. And I'm not sure exactly why, because I'm not delivering a terrible message. So why would they come and attack me? You know, why would they come and attack me saying that, no, it's impossible for me to live my Western lifestyle? And then I'll say to them, well, how much money are you living on now? And they say, oh, $1,000 a month. You see, it's just like incredible. You know, it's incredible because your life can change so much more towards the positive if you weren't paying, you know, the expenses that you have to for food, car insurance because you have to commute, housing, the most expensive. I think the average rent right now in the United States is something like $1,700 or $1,800 per month, and it's declining, thankfully. And an average mortgage payment is something like $2,200 per month, and the average home for sale in the United States, I was looking at the numbers this morning before I started the live stream, is something like $452,000. I mean, that is absolutely insane. And most Filipinos, when you present that information to them, they just kind of go, that's crazy. That's crazy. And so the economy here in the Philippines, it's not centered around how much real estate that you could push out. They don't monetize everything like they do in the United States. They haven't monetized housing. They haven't monetized medical care. They haven't monetized a whole bunch of stuff. But it's coming. It's coming. Take my word for it. And so the fact that, so it was our personal choice, and I'm talking about Man, Minnie, and I, that we did not have to want to worry about stupid stuff. And that's why we're not living full time in the United States. But sure, I have friends, I have relatives putting on this big, happy, smiley face, talking about things like how much money they're making, and they have beautiful homes, stuff with all kinds of garbage that'll come it'll come in very, very handy in the afterlife. But, but they're probably stressed every single day, you know. The husband works, the wife works, the kids work, everybody's working. There's a way to make it work so that everybody isn't stressed. Everybody has to pull their own weight the way they do it here in the Philippines. Everybody has to be a contributing member of the household in some kind of way. Even if you're a kid, you take a load off the parents by simply doing the dishes. I mean, that's just a fact if you're living in the United States. And here, it's communal living. It always has been. It probably always will be. Mike says, I want to live in the Philippines, but if I do, I will not see my grandchildren. Yeah, here's what happens, with grandchildren. Here's what happens. This is my life. This isn't yours. But so here I am, right? Hey, oh, grandpa's coming over. And then they go back to playing their video games and working their phone. And then I do the same thing. That's the relationship, Mike. Yeah, so you can miss each other 7,000 miles away, my friend. Or you could be right next to them and then not be right next to them. So now I know people have loving families, They have loving, caring families. They're not like yours, Dan. In other words, they have little grandbabies they can hold, right? Until they get old enough to be able to turn on a computer or fire up a cell phone, which is about what? At 3 years old. And so there's my counter to that. And so virtually, you could have a time set up. Come here, give me a hug and a kiss. I mean, what's your life like? It's probably way different than mine because my perspective is a little bit different, In other words, I could live here in the Philippines, save a ton of money, and then guess what? The grandkids say, "Hey, Grandpa, can you kick me down? Can you kick me down a C note?" And then guess what? I'm giving them a C note. See what I'm saying? In other words, they can come to me and say, "Oh, Grandpa, I'm a little bit short on college tuition." No problem. Here you go. Do you have your PayPal account? I'll send you the money. See, that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off. See, trade-off is, oh no, I don't get a hug and kiss you in person. But what I do get to do is make sure that you have, you're able to live your dreams the way that you want to live your dreams. See, that's what I can make sure that I can do. And then maybe they'll think about it once in a while. Maybe they won't, but it doesn't matter to me because I'm just a happy guy anyway. So that's the way that I think about it. And then once a year, once every 2 years, get on a plane and spend the $5,000 or $10,000, and then go home. And you know what happens when we get home, Mike? Give them more money, and then get on the plane and go. Go back to the Philippines. Well, no, of course not. Of course not, but I do. See, that's the difference. I do, because money makes the world go round, and so I do want to be the ATM grandpa. It's better than me going there, getting a hug and a kiss, and then, having everybody go to their corners or everybody go to their bedroom to play their video games. Hey, if it doesn't happen that way in your family, I'm so happy for you. But the culture is becoming a nomadic culture. It's becoming one of travel. But speaking to that, I have one more thing, one final thought to share with you guys, and that is that, Filipinos are also nomadic. And so they have the largest overseas worker population in the world. They give the most help and the most money. So I think that Filipinos are ATM machines in a way. Because they go to work overseas, right, Mike? And then they send the money home to their own sacrifice. But you know what the beautiful part of this is? I don't have to make sacrifices. I can just send the money because it's all this money. It accumulates so fast for me. It has to go somewhere, right? And after a while, I get this reaction, from people, no, 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 I don't need any. No, no, it's okay. Well, it's there if you want it. No, 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 I don't really need any money this month. The OFW is an AT mom, exactly, yeah. And so those are the sacrifices that people make in order to improve their lives and then the people around them. And so that's kind of how I have how I view it. Is it ideal? What's ideal is if I could live in the United States for what I can live in the Philippines for, and then be around all the people, even though they won't come visit me or I don't go visit them. It's not that way for all my family members. I see a lot of loving going on, right? They wouldn't give it up for anything in the world. I'm sure, Mike, that you're the same way. And all I do is admire them, but I admire them from afar, very far. It's just my personality type. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good that you want to do it that way. Also, yeah, in the United States too. The United States also has one of the highest suicide rates. Is that what you're referring to? People are, and teenagers, even when they have a loving grandfather, even when they have loving parents, are killing themselves off in the United States. And what could possibly be causing that to have happened, Mike? How about because there's no hope for the future for them? They don't see it. There is, of course. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying they can't see it. They're different. They can't see it. And so you have the highest suicide rates among teenagers in the United States going on right now. OFWs do, and teenagers in the U.S. do. So what's causing that? Would a grandpa present have prevented that? I mean, that's an important point to consider. That's one that would certainly open up my eyes. But I won't sacrifice that way. My own happiness, our own happiness. See? In other words, you have to find the balance. You can't sacrifice everything. You have to find the balance. And that's what we try and do. And so if I'm talking to them on the cell phone and they're in the next room, I could be talking to them on the cell phone 7,000 miles away. That's the way that I view it. And so not everybody is going to be thinking like me. Maybe even most people don't. But it works for me, and it works for us. And it's a beautiful thing because we also have to balance it out with what's going on in Mam Minnie's life and her family. And of course, Mam Minnie is around her relatives, as you can see in her Facebook posts. She's constantly around her relatives, which puts, quite frankly, an even bigger smile on my face. So the bottom line is you end up doing what you have to do in order to make things work. But there is I do find a common thread, though. I'll admit this to you, Mike, because because I've thought about this. There seems to be a common thread of with people that move here to the Philippines, and some of those common threads are obvious. I see many single moms working all the time. Kids are alone, pressure from school and other children. Yeah, but you see it here in the Philippines. It reminds me a little bit. I don't want to be cliche about this, Mike. So I apologize because it is going to sound like a little bit of a cliche. But back in the 1950s and the 60s, when little Daniel was walking off to school, speaking to your point, and coming home, my mom she tells me, as I've grown older, she tells me that, oh, I don't know if you know this or not, but all the moms, they would call. Daniel just passed at my house, should be home soon, right? They were getting the message. And so that means the community was involved in for the caring of the child. And so that is the way it's done here in the Philippines. Because people who live in the provinces, they don't move very far away from home. They live their entire lives in the same province or the same area for which they were born, which means that everybody is a relative, or everybody is an old family friend, or everybody is a friend from childhood or since birth. You know, they could show you pictures. Oh, there's my friend Susie. You know, here's a picture of us playing together when we were 2. You know, and then she's caring for your kid to make sure that your kid isn't harmed or while on their walk home from school, or traveling across the street, making sure the traffic is clear and those types of things. That's the difference. That's the difference. You're on your own in the United States a lot of times if you're a kid. Small towns from a village, if you did something mom knew. That's right. Your mom knew it before you got home, and that's how it was for myself also. But it doesn't happen that way in the United States. Most often, parenting has become a very, very complicated thing. You have to be involved in the kid's life. And the excuses that most parents have is the same one that I used, you know, and that is that, man, I got to work all this overtime. I can't attend the baseball game. I can't attend the soccer game. I got to work to earn money in order to pay the mortgage. Those things only exist in high society here in the Philippines. And I've seen it. I have seen it. You know, when you get into Manila, you get up into Beverly Hills. When you get up into the Beverly Hills area of Cebu, and you start talking to those kids, the kids are walking around. They have their own independent lives going on, and that is a little bit on the ridiculous side. In the West, no village, no family. We move all the time, right? But now it's getting worse in that they're not having families, and that's the reason why the people are becoming. That's why we're aging out. You know, we're aging quicker. Not as quick as some other countries like China and Thailand and some Russia. They're all entering a period where the population is going to decline suddenly, and the reason is because people stopped having children because there wasn't opportunity. They didn't want to bring children into this world in the West where things were so expensive. You know, things were so expensive, or you know, half the men here are drunks. You know, they don't make great father material, that sort of thing. And so it's complicated. Socioeconomics we're talking about. They affect the economy in so many ways. And so like they are in the West. I mean, demographic trends are the main enemy right now in the West. I'm just saying, is it so simplistic, Dan? Well, no. But why isn't anybody talking about 80 million people retiring all at the same time? Why aren't they talking about that? In the Philippines, more young Filipinos look into foreigners to have babies because they want a stable environment. And a foreigner, no matter what their income, you know, has wisdom, and in a lot of cases, they have money to spend, you know. And so that's what the opportunity living here affords you. I would say bring your grandchildren here. Mike is in the house. Hi, Mike. So you see, unless something dramatically changes in the West, then I can't see a great economic outcome. I can't see a great for example, Mike. So people, if you talk to the next couple of generations, I'm talking about. Let's see. You have my kid. My kid is age 30. My youngest son, is in his mid 30s, I think, or he's approaching. The next generation's down. You know, they're not interested in buying houses and doing all this crap. They're not interested in doing that. They don't want to be burned by it, nor are they interested in going into debt. My own kid, as far in conversations we've had in the past, my youngest one only has one credit card to his name with a very, very low credit limit, for example. So it's the bridge. He bridges the shortcomings with that credit card, I'm sure. I don't know but that's the only debt that kid has. And so that's the 30-something-year-old, right? The way people think about the American way of life and the American dream is disappearing slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. It's disappearing. And so is this a good thing? No, well, yeah, it all depends. If you're a guy like me and you're retired in the West, if you're in the United States, particularly California, but there are other places, you're pretty much screwed because the machine still has to keep going. And if your kid isn't out there spending money like a drunken sailor, who's supporting my pension? Who is supporting? Who's going to purchase my house when I decide to sell it? Right? Who's going to go out there and buy brand spanking new cars? And I think this is one of the reasons why we end up going to a subscription economy. Let's see. Mike says, Dan, question: do you have a paid funeral just in case? I found people who the Philippines don't want to discuss funeral arrangements. Yeah, I know. No, we're set up. We're set up. It's called cash. It's called cash ready to go. And Minnie has access to it, and she knows what to do, and she has the envelope that's marked what to do when I die. And in that envelope, it has all the information on where the money is and what she needs to do and all the passwords. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Mark Thornton, who recently passed away. Mark Thornton was Every Man Had a Story. When, from what I understand by watching the videos, they said he was the most organized person that anybody's ever met. He had all the instructions for Jen on his wishes, what he wanted to do, that he wanted to be cremated, and he had A, B, C, D, where she would live, where she would go, how she would support herself, and all this other stuff. I imagine they have money coming in, or they will, due to the child. The child's an American born. She gets, I'm not sure she would get survivor's benefits for that child, but perhaps there's something there. I'm not sure. I don't know all the nuances. I have paid arrangements in Canada, but I would like to have it set up in the Philippines. Well, it's not financially insurmountable like it is in the West. They monetize funerals like crazy, and that's why everybody goes for cremation. A couple $1,000, boom, you're done. As opposed to paying that $10,000 to $15,000. They just don't get where they come up with those kind of numbers. You got to put them in the ground. Here, similar funeral it's not that expensive. And so they can be costly. Again, the sky's the limit on how much money you want to spend if you have the money to spend. But generally speaking, it's not cost prohibitive, and so you fund those types of things by setting aside cash. You don't have cash to do it, just set aside so much money every month and leave instructions for your Sawa so she knows exactly what to do. I have mine around here somewhere. I don't think it's in the room. I think it might be in the master bedroom, but I usually keep my brown envelope. I usually keep it in my briefcase with my tax returns and stuff like that. But Minnie has a copy, and check this out. I don't want to put pressure on there if I set it up. But my friend John, you asked a specific question. My friend John does have a prepaid funeral. He does have it, and I'm not sure how the whole thing works. I never talked to him about it. But apparently there is insurance or prepaid funeral. Minnie does have it. She has bought the plots and paid for them. They're all paid for. So that part of it is all covered. But she doesn't have an actual insurance policy like my friend John does. But so Minnie has the funeral plots for her relatives. They're all together, right? And it was not inexpensive, and she was very diligent about paying that thing off. It was very expensive as I can recall, but it is not cost prohibitive like it is in the United States. It was expensive in relative terms, relative to what goes on here in the Philippines. But it's a new funeral. It's a new cemetery. So anyway, yeah, you buy acreage, right? So anyway, that's all covered. And for me, I just say that they probably will have to take me to Tacloban, and they'll have to cremate me. And where my ashes end up, only God knows. Only God will knows. Maybe you can do a video on it or go to a funeral home. That's a good idea. I think we'll do that. That's a fantastic idea. And we have 3 or 4 funeral homes here in the Philippines. And so I know they do offer a prepaid plans. Irene and Irish is here. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. 10 million people in the house. It's so early, and I've already been going an hour and a half. So anyway, you can have different perspective and ideas about, how you want to operate your life. It's really impressive. I was just thinking about this. So you have Cess and her husband, Cess Tillin, who came into the chat a couple of days ago, and she's living in Bellevue, Washington. Now, that's a beautiful place. I got to tell you, I could not afford to live in Bellevue, Washington. I'm going to be just honest with you. It's getting cheaper, because people are abandoning that area. Seattle's only like 30 minutes away. But I could not. The last time that I was talking about friends, I have friends who live in Bellevue, and they were telling me, hey, Dan, you should move up here. Well, the problem is I can't afford $1 million home. So that's the problem. you know. You can take Taco Bell for cremation. That's the problem. I can't afford, but she's living a dream. Sess, she's living a dream. She was in the chat saying, she got her green card. And so now, and of course she has, if she wanted to, and she were so inclined, she could go to work if she wants to. But the most valuable gift is the gift of dual citizenship, in my own opinion. It's a gift to myself, and for Filipinos, a gift to themselves, right? And so Mark's kid, Mark Thornton, Ron Jean is here. Good morning. How are you? So Mark Thornton, I was talking about him. Every man has a story. Has that child who's going to be a dual citizen, and that thing is the best gift that you could leave for your child if you have to leave this world. The way that Mark had to. Gone today, here today, gone tomorrow. May he rest in peace. But the gift of dual citizenship for that kid is invaluable. And I don't think this is lost on anybody. I don't think this is lost on Jen or anybody. And so now you have Cess Tilland, who's living in the States for now. And she's probably going to go to work on earning that dual citizenship, because once she has that, right? Once she has that U.S. passport, the sky's the limit on her opportunity. The sky's already the limit on opportunity. But I mean, it's so valuable. She can travel anywhere at any time, go back and forth to the United States, work if she wants to. She can really, really take advantage of it. And it's a really amazing thing, and it's one of the most valuable gifts that you can give to your child, or to your wife, your spouse, or your husband. And so one more final thought. Okay, so I want to talk about one more thing. It was really about money and how much money, and I was focusing in on the housing costs, because they're in decline here in the Philippines. It's obvious that they are. And everybody on YouTube is talking about it, but they're talking about it from the perspective of that there's a condo crash that is occurring. And I don't see it exactly that way. I realize that they like to sell views, and so they're putting out alarming information out there. But there is a decline in the cost of housing. There's a decline. It's an obvious one. Is it a 10% decline? It's somewhere around there that I have observed. It's somewhere around there. Is it any more than that? Is there a 50% decline in condo value? Are they being devalued by 50%? No, I wouldn't say so. And plus, there are areas of the Philippines this would never have any kind of an impact, because there are people that they still want to live in the fanciest place that they can afford in the Philippines, especially if you're from the West. If you can't afford a flat, overlooking San Francisco Bay or Mission Bay, San Diego, if that's the kind of view that you want, you can afford it here in the Philippines. You see, you can get that view. And you can get it for a fraction of the cost that it's going to cost you in the United States. But I'll tell you what my pet peeve is. I'll tell you what I'm a little bit jealous about. I waited until 65 in order to retire, and I thought that was young. Right? But you have people coming over here, and they're in their 20s and their 30s. I've met a few of them. Some of them are successful YouTube vloggers. They have 30, 40, 50,000 and up subscribers. And they're here walking around. But they've confided in me things ain't the way they used to be. They have confided to me off screen, one-on-one, having a cup of coffee. Things ain't the way that they used to be. Mike, have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. So they're not the way they used to be, which means that, during the past couple of years, they were making hella money and they could afford to move around and not have to worry about where the cash was coming from. And there's still a lot of successful YouTubers that are able to do that. But I caution you, you should have a source of income, a guaranteed source of income, such as a pension, or passive income, that's guaranteed passive income that you could put to work for you if you're going to come here to the Philippines. And so what's ended up happening that I've noticed is you have a lot. Yeah, what happens if TikTok is going to be gone? How are they going to get their money? You have so many that are making their entire living off of that one platform, that are living in Southeast Asia. How is their life going to be impacted? And where are they going to go? We already have people that are telling me, even expats that are younger than me. I'm talking about 30, 40-year-olds and some 50-year-olds. And they're telling me they have to return back to the United States to go back to work because they ran out of money. And I keep thinking to myself, man, I don't want to wish anybody harm, but it certainly sucks to be you. Better planning, it might have worked out, in this case. But at least they have the means, and they anticipated that they might have to return back to the United States. And so they have the means to get back and set up their households. You always have to be prepared to do that. But even more prepared by having a steady flow of money coming in. You can't come over here, with on a wing and a prayer. You can't go over here. You can't come over here hoping that things will work out, and that you'll have enough money to make it through, to reach your retirement dreams. And so you have a lot of people that were successful vloggers that are seeing a tank in their income. Some of the guys you would be surprised about. Some of them you'd be very surprised. They used to sit in their apartment. They used to sit in the coffee shop downstairs, in the Starbucks, at the Bose, and they used to do one of these talking head videos, and they were making $100,000 American a year doing that. And then all of a sudden, they're struggling to get 10,000 views. They're struggling. They used to get 100,000, 250,000 views per video, and now they're getting 10,000, and then they're getting crappy advertising, it doesn't work. They're not able to live the lifestyle that they've been accustomed to living. And so you gotta come here with a plan, with an income stream. Doesn't matter if it's an online store, if it's rental, if it's return on investment from real estate. It doesn't really matter where you're getting your money from, just so long as you have the money coming in steadily that you can depend upon every single month. And so I'm a little bit jealous when I see the 30-year-old walking down the street with the camera. I start thinking to myself, is that dude for real? Go Go back and do your 20 years. Go work for the government. Go work for the Internal Revenue Service or something. Come back here when you got a pension and you're ready to go. This is my reward. This is our reward for Man, Minnie, and I. We worked for it. Get out of here. But yet, that's one side of my mouth, right? And on the other side, I'm saying, you could start an online business. Don't give an employer any more than 20 hours a week of your time. Become rich. How you become rich? Time is your friend. Time is not your enemy. It is your friend. And that's how you make money. It gives you time to think. Be creative. Problem solve. Develop multiple streams of income. That's the way of the future. Our grandkids, they're figuring it out. The economy, the global economy is changing. The U.S. economy is changing. Wake up, pay attention, do it the way the Filipinos have been doing it for years. Flexibility, multi-generational housing. And with that, I'll let everybody off the hook and I'll go on my merry way. We're gonna be hanging around bye today a little bit later. I will see. I don't know. I think I might live stream later on. We have a fiesta to go to tonight, and depending on what the circumstances are like, we might live stream that. And so that's the famous singer Sarsi Palia has invited us to his home. And so I don't know if they're going to have pig or if it's going to be a catered event, but there is a fiesta going on. So everybody have a great rest of your day, wherever you may be. Evening, have a nice sleep, have a nice weekend, have a happy tomorrow, and we'll see everybody later. Bye, everybody. Oh, man, how do I shut this off? Oh, there. Whoops.